I love Pokemon cards. And if you're watching this video, you probably also love Pokemon cards. And the market has been a bit crazy recently, with scalpers acting worse than children, stock being hard to come by, and even when you find it, you'll be lucky to even get it at RRP. But despite these challenges, us true fans persevere and attempt to complete our sets, remembering that these cards are a game and they're there to have fun with, and not investments like many people seem to think. The sooner those guys go back to selling sneakers, the better for everyone. One of my favourite ideas that's come out of Pokemon card collecting is the National Dex collection, collecting a card for every single Pokemon in the National Dex. Deep Pocket Monsters did a great set of videos with that enormous Voltex binder. It was a huge effort. I mean, literally huge. Look at the size of that binder. And while all National Dexes are great, I have made it my mission to find out about the world's most expensive National Dex. Finding the most expensive version of every single Pokemon card, from Bulbasaur right the way through to Pesherant. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show off all of these super rare and expensive cards in person. But why, might you ask? Well, I have a mortgage. I have bills. I have an epileptic dog with very expensive medication. So, bar a miracle of winning the Euro Millions or blowing up on this platform, this National Dex will forever be a dream. Or maybe I'm just creating a shopping list for an extremely wealthy oligarch with a taste for Pokemon. While researching this National Dex, I did set myself out a few rules. Firstly, English cards only. This is easier for me to compare prices, and also I've only ever collected English cards, so it's what I know. We're using raw prices only. None of that graded cards in here. I personally am not a fan of graded cards. That might be a hot take, but I like my cards raw. And finally, all card values were taken from the Pokemon card collecting app Collector. It's a great app for organising your collection and looking at prices in the market, but I won't say any more than that because they're not paying me to do so. But if you're listening, hit me up. And yes, I know, some people will argue that I should be using TCG Player or Price Charting or some other website because they are more reliable, so on and so forth. And that's fine. I was fully aware that it was never going to be an exact science getting this National Dex down because, the continual fluctuations in the market. But I'm trying my best here, so cut me some slack. Some of these cards are rare as hell, and I struggled with, should I only include Pokemon cards that are widely available? But then I was thinking, this is living in a world where I have infinite money to make this Pokemon cards collection, so I'd find a way to make it happen. Now, with the rules out of the way, let's look at the world's most expensive National Dex, starting with Gen 1 in Kanto. Also, just a quick note, this took me a lot of time to research and put together a spreadsheet and all sorts of things. So if you hit that subscribe button down there, I'd really, really appreciate it. Thanks. Kanto arguably has the most famous Pokemon in the entire series. Gengar, Mew, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Machamp, Pikachu, and Charizard. So we can definitely expect some big hitters here. But how much do you think Generation 1 will total altogether? Leave a comment below and watch to the end to find out to see if you're right. It only really makes sense if we start with Bulbasaur, right? So, what's Bulbasaur's most expensive card in all of Pokemon TCG? Well, it's the Reverse Holo from the Legendary Collection, released in 2002. This set essentially took all the best cards from Base, Jungle, Fossil, and Team Rocket and created a Legendary Collection. These Reverse Holos are really impressive, especially when you compare them to Reverse Holos of sets nowadays, where in some instances you can't really tell the difference. But the piece of information we all really want to know, what is the current market price? Well, according to Collector, to get you the Bulbasaur Reverse Holo Legendary Collection, it's going to cost you a cool £135.65. We can then obviously add Ivysaur to this, whose biggest hitter is the first edition base set card, clocking in at £73.45. These shadowless cards are hugely coveted in the Pokemon market, and we have our first right now. But I think now it's time for our first truly legendary Pokemon with the big flower power of Venusaur, with this, the first edition base set. And Collector marks this cards up at a whopping £873.39. So let's add that to our total. 3 cards in, and we're already in the 4 digits realm. Yeah, you're going to want to strap in and hold on to your wallets for this video. Just these first 4 cards probably give you a sense of just how expensive this National Dex is going to be. So leave your guess in the comments of the most expensive card and the total value of the National Dex. No, go ahead, really, I'll wait.
Well, we're waiting.
We can add the other 2 starters with Charmander and Squirtle, both sharing the same set as Bulbasaur, with the Legendary Collection Reverse Holos, and each coming in with a nice price tag to boot. As we go down the list, some Pokemon surprise me.
Surprise! Surprise!
For example, number 9, Blastoise. You would have thought, like Venusaur, it's the first edition base set that's going to be the big hitter, but it's actually Blastoise from Trainer Deck B. Yeah, I'm not surprised if you haven't heard of this. I hadn't either before this. Trainer Deck B was a deck that was released for people to playtest the game before base set was released and get an understanding for how the game works. Inside of it is a non-holo Blastoise, which is currently going for £901.95. And I think the fact that this deck wasn't sold publicly, but only at like special league events, I'm going to say that's probably a very conservative price. Carrying on down the list, we start adding more and more cards to our national decks. And I expected many of the most expensive cards from this generation to either be the reverse holo legendary collections or the first edition base versions. However, there were some outliers. Anyone ever heard of Topps? Nowadays, Topps are more known for their sports cards, but between 1999 and 2004, Topps made 11 different sets of Pokemon cards, heavily featuring the anime and movies from the time. A set was released for the original 151 Pokemon, with special cards featuring scenes from the original episodes. Sets for the first 2 movies, Mewtwo Strikes Back and Pokemon Movie 2000, which again featured key scenes from the movies. I loved these cards as a kid, usually because they were a little bit cheaper than the normal Pokemon cards. If you went to the right shops, you could pick them up for like £1 to £2 per pack. And I have actually been slowly working on completing the full sets. But not these super rare Topps Chrome versions. Arbok, Vileplume, Zubat and Dugtrio all have their most expensive versions from Topps. So these will certainly stand out on our national decks. Carrying on through the original 151. Psyduck from Unified Minds shares its most expensive card with Slowpoke. So we'll have to add 2 versions of this £112.12 card to the decks. Then we'll keep going, let's add some more. Golem from Skyridge, Executor from Expedition, Lickitung from Temporal Forces. This Ditto promo with a huge £507.35 card. Another few variations we see are the League and Tournament staff cards. These cards were given out at Pokemon tournaments and most recently at pre-release events for the newer card sets. That makes these cards extremely rare and hard to come across. But hey, we've won the Euro Millions, so I'll have no problem getting my hands on some of these. So I'll have absolutely no problem getting someone to part ways with their Poliwrath staff card or their National Championship matchup card. We can add more and more of the original 151 to the decks, but I know some people are going to be eager to know what's going on with some of their favourite mons. So how about we take a look at some of their famous faces. Our Gyarados card is from the EX Holland Phantoms, and it's shiny. And you're going to need a lot of shiny coin to pick this one up. £1,503.25. Gengar's card was a bit of a surprise. I originally expected it to maybe be the alternate art from Fusion Strike, or even the Neo Destiny version. But it's actually this, the Staff Sword and Shield promo card, going for an eye-watering £2,630.65. Now, I'm not sure what happened with this card, but the fact that at the beginning of this year it was going for less than £400 makes me think there's some sort of market manipulation going on there. What do you think? Rounding out the original 151, we have the EX Rocket Returns Mewtwo and the EX Dragon Frontiers Mew card with a combined cost of £2,031.27. I guess though we should probably look at the mascot now, right? The main yellow mouse himself is Pikachu. What are your guesses? The elusive Red Cheeks Pikachu? Or how about the very artistic Pikachu with grey felt hat in the style of the great Van Gogh? Well, it's actually another card from the EX Holland Phantoms set. The Pikachu Gold Star card with a current market value of £1,553.36. A big price for Ash's main man. Raichu never really got the same love as Pikachu, and his most expensive card is the Neo Destiny Shining Raichu. But at a meagre £281.86. Poor guy. That's merely walking around money compared to some of the cards on this list. Now, for the most expensive card in this generation. Is anyone surprised that it's a Charizard card? This Pokemon has some of the highest value cards in all of Pokemon, and it feels like whenever it's involved in a set, it automatically makes it the de facto chase card. But with so many choices, which will come out on top? The Shining Charizard from Neo Destiny? The Charizard Gold Star from EX Dragon Frontiers? Maybe Blaine's Charizard from Gym Challenge? Okay, surely the first edition base set, coveted as the holy grail of Pokemon cards. Yeah, not even close. The most expensive Charizard card, and card in general from the first generation of Pokemon, is the Secret Rare from the Skyridge set released in 2003. This was a huge shock to me. as I, like many, would have thought the first edition would have come in and taken the crown. But let's not take anything away from this card. It is a really nice illustration, and with it being over 22 years old at this point, surely the price will only go up and up. So that's Generation 1 down. What do you think we have as our current running total? 15,000? Maybe 25?
Try just shy of £35,000. An insane number to start off the world's most expensive National Dex binder. £35,000. That is enough to get you probably a really good car. I'm not a car person, but that sounds like a lot of money to be able to get you a decent car. And I do know which one I'd rather have, to be fair. Thank you for watching though. If you like this content, hit that subscribe button down there. And there's a like button which you can hit as well if you really fancy it. I'll be picking up the other generations, so you can let me know in the comments below which Pokemon you think will have the most expensive cards going forward. But for now, I've been Glaring Greg, and this has been the first part of the most expensive National Dex ever.